Episode number 48, it's called Dreadful. And I read a few verses of Revelation 6, verse 15 and 17. Because talking about the signs of the times, there are two aspects of all these signs of the times. Some deal with that glorious future, that great kingdom of peace and righteousness on earth, and finally the renewal of all things. But also signs are mentioned that have to do with death and destruction, with disaster, with judgment and stuff like that. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and every slave and every freeman hid in caves and among the rocks of the mountains. They called to the mountains and to the rocks, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of God who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand?" Many people today believe in the theory of evolution, that everything that is and exists just happened by enormous amounts of time and chance. It started with a big explosion, and then everything started to rotate, and stars and planets and everything was formed, and a slow process of over millions and millions of years took place, and everything gradually evolved from that until ultimately man was the peak of the evolutionary process. Combined with that, there was the conviction that the laws of nature are absolutely stable, that the universe works like clockwork. Sun comes up and the sun goes down, and the rotations of the planets and the courses that they take traveling through space, always exactly the same, rock solid. That's the only way they can do their satellites and shoot rockets, bring people on the moon, on Mars, or even send them far out in space, because they can compute the movements of these solar systems, even stellar systems. It's all. So for centuries this was the conviction. Yes, you will have a little rippling here or there. You might have an earthquake, or you might have a flood, a river or a lot of rain, and well, that's not too pleasant. But when you look on an average over the years, it's all stable. It's like grandfather's clock. It ticks, and goes on and on. So mankind, because of this, is not open for the possibility that this universe is not stable at all, that the history of the world is not a gradually evolving thing, but that big catastrophes have taken place. The Bible mentions one of them. It's the catastrophe of the flood. When the waters of the deep broke open, when bottoms of the oceans were pushed up, and so the water of the oceans flooded the land, other areas sank down. Today you find on the top of the Himalayas, shells and other fossils of marine life that once used to live on the bottom of the ocean. So one day, the top of the Himalayas have been the bottom of oceans and were pushed up. So there are big catastrophes, even the one with water. And the Bible also says one day there will be a catastrophe of heat, of fire, when the planet itself will be led through a cleansing process with fire and heat is concerned. In the book of Revelation, you hear about these catastrophes that will hit planet Earth in an incredible way. And when you go into that stage, and we're getting more and more close to that, it seems as if our safe home, planet Earth, is collapsing. How the fundaments are start to shake by earthquakes, how enormous things might hit us from the sky. When that happened with asteroids, they create such an impact on the planet that atomic bombs are nothing in comparison. All kind of these things, planet Earth is collapsing. The sun will be turned to darkness. The moon as sackcloth, is the prophet Joel in the Old Testament. Isaiah the prophet says that the heavens will be rolled up like a scroll, and the stars will fall like withered leaves from the vine. It's always also in relationship with judgment over the nations, over the Gentiles, specifically over the enemies of Israel. The earth will shake from its place. That's what Isaiah says in combination with the fall of Babylon. Shake in its place. Haggai prophesies about the final judgment, about the shaking of the heavens and the earth. But he also sees through that and after that an incredible role for the nation of Israel. How the nations will then be focused on the Middle East. In the book of Ezekiel, you have Gog and Magog in Ezekiel 38 and 39, who suddenly attack Israel. But then God himself starts to fight on the side of his people Israel. And earthquakes and stones falling from the heavens. These stones are often, you also find them with Joshua. Sun stands still and moon stands still. And then you read that more enemies, when that happened, were killed by stones falling from the sky than by the sword of the Israelites. And also there it's translated like hailstones. Well, you can have pretty big hailstones, like ping pong balls or something like that, and they can do damage. But the Hebrew expression there is barat, hot stones, meaning a bombardment. And most of these stones that fall from the sky are burning like a falling star, and they don't reach the earth. But the big ones could penetrate through the stratosphere and through these layers that protect the earth. And when they do, they come down like a storm of stones, of hot stones, causing enormous damage. So, judgment, trials and tribulations, plagues are also part of the end time picture, are also part of the signs of the times. Now, there was a time that many theologians said, well, all these judgment and an angry God, that's the God of the Old Testament. He is to be feared, he is becoming very angry and then he lashes out. But the God of the New Testament, that is the loving God. That is Jesus, who loves people, who gave his life to get people saved. So let's shove aside the Old Testament and just have the New Testament about this loving God. But the God of the Old Testament is the same God as the God of the New Testament. And in this verse you read that Jesus, the loving Jesus, who wants to save you, will become very angry one day. That God and Jesus both have an incredible wrath and will hit mankind and the nations and the planet itself in an incredible way. And then the people on the earth, the sinners who are against God and against Jesus and against God's laws and everything, they get so frightened that they say, please, let's hide in the caves. Rocks, please fall upon us, because it is terrible to fall in the hands of a living God. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of their wrath has come, and we can't stand. Who can stand? Their wrath of God and of the Lamb. So when he's coming back, it's not like the loving Lamb of God to be slain for. He's the judge. And he will judge. So it's time for you and me, now that we still have time of grace, now that this still is not happening on planet Earth, that we come to Jesus and surrender to him and serve God. Love God with all our hearts. Love our fellow human beings with everything we have. And then be safe. And we will not come into this great day of the Lord, the day of vengeance. There is still time for you too.